Hello, my name is Antonio Martinez, and I am playing Dead by Daylight for my competitive analysis assignment. For the mechanic that I am studying for this assignment, I am studying locker hiding. To hide in the locker, the player will need to press space. And to leave the locker, the player will have to press space once more. If the player presses space bar and shift at the same time, they can enter fast. And if they do it again, they can exit fast. The player takes about 3 seconds to enter the locker slowly and 3 seconds to exit the locker slowly. The player also takes about 1 second to enter the locker fast, and it's another quick 1 second to exit the locker fast. The player can choose to hide in the locker from up to a distance of 2 player units. And the player cannot choose to enter the locker from the side. If a player tries to enter a locker that another player is already inside of, the locker will play a 2-second animation showing the player trying to enter and the other player trying to shoo him away. Entering and leaving the locker makes noise. If you fast leave or fast enter the locker, it will make more noise than usual. It will sound like this. While if you leave the locker slowly and enter slowly, it'll sound more quietly, but it will still play the sound. These noises can be heard by the killer and will reveal the player's location to the killer essentially. Entering and leaving the locker plays an animation for both fast and slow. And it also leaves behind scratch marks that are only visible to the killer. How does this feature connect to the overall design? While a survivor is in the locker, they are affected by blindness, which shows up on the right side of the screen. Blindness means that the player cannot see other players or the killer's auras. Their aura is also hidden from the other players and the killer. The player can still move their camera around, but is not centered on the player anymore, but is instead centered on the locker. Because of this, it is harder to look around certain walls that you would normally be able to see around outside the locker. In our game Cryptid, the player currently instantly enters the locker and is switched to a first-person view mode without the ability to look around. If a player hides in a locker for over a minute, crows will begin to perch on top of the locker to reveal the player's location to the killer. If the player doesn't leave the locker after 100 seconds of being in the locker, the killer will receive a sound cue revealing where the player is and continue to receive the sound cue until the player moves from that spot. There is one downside for the player hiding from the killer inside of a locker. If the killer knows what locker the player is currently hiding within, the killer can instantly pick up the player instead of having to attack and down the player first to pick them up. Combinations of different add-ons can affect different attributes of hiding in the locker. As shown on the right, I have 4 add-ons. One add-on will allow the player to feign opening the locker so they can pretend like they opened it and it'll make the sound effect and they can just run away. Another add-on will allow the player to jump out fast, but it won't make any of the sound cues. You can see it go on cooldown now on the left. The third ability on the right that I am currently using will allow the player to craft a stun grenade while in the locker, while hiding in the locker. The final perk that I have on top will allow the player to stun the killer after being in the locker for a couple of seconds. And finally, if you're fighting specifically the Dredge, you can use a 1-second animation to lock a locker, making it harder for him to come there. Thank you for your time.